Hey, how's it going? It's Jameson here. Just wanted to give you fine folks a heads up that we did a home recording for this episode, and we unfortunately found out well after the recording that we had a problem with our microphone setup, and long story short, the audio quality is not the strongest for this episode. But we did what we could to salvage it. I think it sounds much better than how it was coming up before. You know, just be aware that there's going to be a few audio spikes or some echoey sounds in a few of the clips. But hopefully we'll have that resolved in time for our next episode. Anyways, just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Now enjoy this episode.
On today's episode, get out your mercuric chloride because that damn puma is loose again. It's Python month, and we watched Eric Idle and John Cleese splitting Heirs. Today on Nothing Movies. So that's the first one. So and here's my alternate intro that we could choose to do. I have to warn you, it's bold. It's a bold.
Oh, I usually hate these.
It's a bold choice, but I feel like it's thematically accurate to what we're doing here. I do worry that about half of our audience won't have any idea what this is in reference to. But I'll just do it. And if you don't like it, we can cut this out, or I can include this in the episode after the fact, and you'll never know. All right. So here's my second intro. You ready? It's.
Okay.
That's it. There we go.
I
think it's a gamble. I think it's a gamble because I don't know how many people remember
Flying Circus
that far back. Because that's early Flying Circus as well, too. That's the first season of Flying Circus.
That's the very first scene in the first episode.
And then they sort of phased the It's Man out.
Well, sometimes they would sub them in in the middle of episodes.
Yeah, those were the good ones.
They were madmen, but
they truly were. Well, welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to the 6th year.
Jesus.
But 6 years, right? I meant to double check that before we started.
By the skin of our teeth. Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess. I mean, we started the first year in, November?
Yeah, I feel...
And we squeezed out a few episodes in that. Technically, we started in, 2018.
Yeah, I feel like we
It's officially 6 years. Feels longer because by the skin of some margins, it is longer.
Sure.
Feels like 10.
Well, it feels like 10 because we also, our second year was in the middle of the pandemic, and that was an extra 4 years right there, so that's fine. But what is it 6 years of? It's 6 years of nothing movies!
That's right.
Kind of. Because we also changed.
We changed the title
of the podcast. I don't know. This is very.
And we're off to a fantastic start.
We're off to an amazing start. We're off to a great start.
Up and running.
Where we ask the question, the fuck is this? It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and we choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made and decide whether or not they've got a certain something, or if a big cartoon foot comes down out of the clouds and makes a funny farting noise. I'm Kaz Lasgard.
I'm Jameson, and may I correct you? Sometimes we cover an actor's filmography. I think this year we're going to start exploring some themes.
We are.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way right now. Let's put this on the table. The year previous to last year on the podcast. We were sort of doing these trilogies. We were picking an actor, and we were doing 3 episodes on that one actor, picking the most anonymous movies that they've done. Last year, we sort of moved away from trilogies. We kind of just had our grab bag year what do we want to talk about? What does the guest want to talk about?
Yeah, it was more, we leaned more into sort of one-off territory, I'd say.
Yeah, it was our year of one-offs, really.
That we kind of just stumbled into.
Outside of our standard series of WrestleMania and Halloween and all that sort of thing. This year, 2024, the trilogies are back in a big way. We're leaning heavily into it. If you didn't like that too, this is the perfect time to get off this train because we are doubling down. So but no, our first theme is we're gonna do a series of themes. We've written down ideas that we're going to try and do, and rather than try to create a trilogy of films around a certain actor, we're gonna take the actor and we're gonna try and work the actor into the theme, as it were. And as you
got that, everyone?
Yeah. It makes perfect sense, and I explained it brilliantly. And as you've already ascertained, given what you've clicked on and everything that I've said up until this point, our first month of themes is Python month. Now, I do want to...
Monty Python, not the snake, the comedy troupe from the 60s.
No, we're just talking about our fucking sick pythons,
right.
Bro. We're just about fucking pumping iron. Yeah, we're here to talk about the most influential sketch comedy troupe of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say what movie we're talking about?
No, you didn't. You didn't even introduce our guest
We've been
yet.
going on quite a while here. Yes, we are talking about the movies that the Monty Python troupe made after the show was over. Today's movie on the docket is 1993's Splitting Heirs, starring Eric Idle and John Cleese and a bunch of other actors, and we will get into it. And to help us talk about and honor probably the greatest sketch comedy troupe of all time, we have a sketch comedian himself. He is an actor and a member of the Smashed Potato Kids. He also has done a lot of work with Vancouver comedy institutions such as Geekenders. Andrew Lynch is on the show.
Hi, good to be here.
He's been sitting here pleasantly smiling, waiting for an in.
I have my tea. I'm fine. Don't worry about me.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I love the Pythons, and with Geekenders, like you mentioned, I also host the Naughty Python Burlesque.
Oh.
That happened in November, and we're doing another one in February. I don't know if this is coming out in time.
But that's why we got you in today, because we're trying our hardest to get that synergy in there. We're trying our hardest to get this released and out there so people who listen within like the first week of it getting released, at the very least, can have the opportunity to say, oh, that's something I could maybe go to.
Yeah, I can make it in time.
It'll be a very short window, but that's what we're aiming for at the very least.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find... I think it's February 2nd. I thought it was in my calendar, but not in my phone calendar, because my phone doesn't sync with my other calendar, even though they're both Apple products. You think they were.
You think everything would just...
I just came to pop it up real quick, but then it just didn't.
Well...
So this is going to go
this is why
really not smooth.
This is why plugs go at the end of the show.
Great. We'll do that later.
Well,
you know, you guys had an entire hour before I showed up to iron all this out.
It was like 25 minutes.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Not to me, it wasn't.
Winter has arrived in Vancouver for those listening here. Yeah, we got the first snowfall, I want to say the year of the season of winter. And
but we're not here to talk about that.
No, we're not. We're here to talk about Monty Python.
Yeah.
All right. So normally at this point in time in the podcast, what we'll do is we'll take the actor and we'll start running down their filmography, and we'll start talking about the hits, and we'll start talking about the nothing movies that they've made, the movies that don't exist, have no cultural impact. But because we're kind of slightly moving away from actors and we're kind of talking about like larger ideas in general, I thought maybe this time we could just start the discussion off by just talking about our personal history with the Monty Python troupe. I know for me, I mean, I won't go into it first, but like I know just like briefly for me, it was sort of like this Rosetta Stone of comedy for like a young boy around like 6 or 7, starting to get introduced to this, introduced by their parents. I mean, like at 6, you're very impressionable at that point. And it was just a lot of listening to sketches on cassette tapes with no images, and I had to sort of create the sketches in my mind, and I wrote down all these words before, they were like online transcripts of these things, and I had to write out all these like British words that I had no understanding of what they meant, and I would go around and I would repeat this dialogue. Like pining for the fjords? I had no idea what that meant when my friend and I did the Dead Parrot sketch at our elementary school talent show that I had written out completely phonetically. Because there's about half of the dialogue in Dead Parrot sketch when I was 9 years old that I had truly no idea what the fuck they were talking about.
Oh, see, my mother is British, so I learned pining for the fjords very early on. She would say it every day at dinner. So I guess I had that advantage over you for that.
But in her case, she was pining for the Thames. That's another body of water there.
Yeah, I know. I know from the Thames. You think I don't know major bodies of water? But I do.
I only know of the Thames because of the old VHSs I had of, I think, Ichabod and Mr. Toad, when it would be like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Oh, yes!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, I
and like,
remember
this
that.
would say Paul's Cathedral, and it would say Thames, but I would say Thames.
Thames.
Because I'm sick.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that was at the end of, you ever see Duckula?
Oh, yeah.
The classic,
Dracula, no.
Jeez, that takes me back.
classic British cartoon.
I
Yeah.
honestly can't remember what VHS tapes it was on specifically, but I think Ichabod and Mr. Toad was one, maybe?
Interesting. We might be talking about a certain Mr. Toad a little later on. That's a bit of a spoiler. But yeah, Andrew, what was your personal history with Monty Python? Do you remember how old you were and what was sort of the impetus? The impetus. Thank you. Like, was it the show? Was it one of the movies? What was your
It was
first
definitely
sort of...
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I would have been probably 8 or 9 because I was in my dad's apartment. And he put it on because he's like, this movie's funny, watch this movie. And I was like, it's funny. I didn't develop like you did this obsession where I like listened to the recordings and wrote them down and performed them. I guess I didn't do that.
Listen, you say obsession. This is just how I do everything.
No, this was a normal childhood that everyone did.
Yeah, everyone does that, right?
I mean, everyone practically did recite Monty Python bits verbatim, you know.
Yeah, and it only continued.
It
only continued as you got older and you went into college.
I don't remember Monty Python being popular amongst the school chums when I was a kid. I remember, Holy Grail was like funny, but it wasn't like what we talked about. The Simpsons was what ruled the playground when I was a kid. Followed by like Family Guy and then Friends and Seinfeld when I got older. But the Pythons weren't like that popular amongst the school chums when I grew up. I'd seen Holy Grail, and then I saw, I think on my own time, Life of Brian, and then The Meaning of Life. I never watched Flying Circus though. It wasn't on TV.
Interesting.
It wasn't. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I knew Monty Python was like above the name of these movies I liked, but I put no thought into the creators of them.
They were the Broken Lizard of their day.
Oh.
Yeah. And even then, Broken Lizard, I didn't watch Super Troopers.
This is the classic.
I watched it way after it was popular. I don't know. I guess it didn't hit pop culture in Calgary. I don't know.
I mean, that's
a damning indictment of Calgary.
That's fine. I lived in Calgary for 6 years, and Super Troopers was a very Albertan movie as far as I was concerned.
Oh,
maybe that was just the crowd.
I've seen it, but I don't remember it being like all we talked about. Same with I don't remember Monty Python taking over my life. Or I remember seeing them and thinking they were funny, and I had no idea Flying Circus existed until
you were much older.
Until I was like college aged, and then I'd seen some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we had PBS growing up. We paid for PBS, so I have a feeling that really helped my exposure to it as well as all things British TV. But yeah, we definitely had like VHS tapes that we had like recorded off the TV of like the best of Python.
In lieu of actually, funding PBS whenever they did their drives.
That's right. Hey, we sent the money, and then as a result, we got to keep those programs forever and watch them on the scratchy VHS.
But you know what? Like what you two have been saying, like it's such a word cloud to I think what was my Monty Python experience. Because growing up, my family was big fans of the classic British comedies. So like I was familiar with Fawlty Towers and the work of John Cleese. From everyone from like myself to my grandparents to my parents, everyone in between, they love the work of John Cleese. And then I remember not the date, but the exact evening it was where it was just my grandparents were over and we were sort of looking for something to do after dinner, just like flipping through the channels, and they saw on the TV Guide channel, Monty Python and the Holy Grail is on. I wonder if that would be a good movie for Jameson to watch. Even when I was like 8 years old at the time, because
the perfect age to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
That's what I watched.
And I was like, "What is Monty Python?" Okay, we're watching it now, and from the second you see King Arthur over the hill with his little squire banging the coconuts, I just burst out, died laughing. But the amazing thing was, from like that scene on to like talking to the crazy French guys in the castle and the Night City. Like, I was deep belly laughing at this, but so were my parents, so were my grandparents, and I was like, this is something that, a shared familial thing that I hadn't experienced before, and when it was over, I was like,
put it in my veins.
I was like,
give
what?
me more of it.
I was like, what is this? Well, tell me about these Python guys, these crazy British guys. John Cleese had friends, and they're like, oh yeah, they did.
I mean, that's debatable.
but they were like, oh yeah.
He had working relationships. Let's say no, they were friends at one point.
But they were like, oh yeah, they did a ton of movies together, and like they did more movies, and like, oh yeah, and there was a TV show. There was a TV show, and that following Monday, I went to my schoolyard chums, just wide-eyed, like bewildered, me like, guys, we got to look into this Monty Python shit, and
attention needs to be paid to
I can proudly say that I got a lot of my elementary school friends into Monty Python, which carried over into our high school, and then carried over into our college days. And
you were the pusher.
I was the pusher.
It was a gateway comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It very much is a gateway comedy for other things. Like you go. I've been in the week leading up to this recording. All of Flying Circus is on Netflix, so I've just been, if I have like a spare like little bit here or there, I can just put on like a random episode, and because of the sketch format, I don't have to watch an entire episode. I can watch like 10 minutes of it or so. I've been watching it on my lunch breaks, and it's just so eminently watchable, and you can see the influences of all of the other comedy troupes and shows that were to come in this one show. Like they're like in the 60s when it was debuting. I've done no real research on this whatsoever. I want this one to be free and loose, baby.
Okay.
Also because we have 2 other episodes.
Yeah, we'll get around to it.
We can get into this. I can do my work later, basically, is what I do. This is how I also did homework growing up. There was like this idea of what a TV show was supposed to be, especially within like the BBC format.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And like this show coming out just broke all the rules of structure and pacing, and also broke all the rules of like what a joke is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Like the way that they would just like repeat gags and drive them into the ground. Mm-hmm. There's this constant reoccurring bit in the first season of Flying Circus where sketches will, if they don't know how to end a sketch, they'll just have a knight in a suit of armor come in and hit someone with a rubber chicken. Mm-hmm. And that they do that like eight times in one episode. Mm-hmm. And it's that classic adage of like, by the middle point, it's not funny anymore. You can see the knight coming, and sometimes he just like hangs around in the scene for a bit before he hits someone with that chicken. And then it's all like, all right, here comes the knight. And then by the end of the episode, he comes in and it's funny again. Yeah.
Well, Andrew, can you speak to something like that from like a perspective of being in sketch comedy scenes? Because I've done a couple of improv shows, and I had to take some improv classes on that, and they do teach you like there is a form and a structure and how to get through a scene, but there's like a wrap it up mentality to it. They don't just arbitrarily end.
Well, I haven't taken any specific sketch comedy classes, nor would I consider myself an authority on sketch comedy by any stretch of the
I didn't mean to put you on the spot on this.
Of the 3 people in this room,
I'm making a point, and I'm directing you to agree with me on
it. Of the 3 people in this room, you're the one who is doing sketch comedy now. So I would say that makes you the authority of these 3 people.
Well, I can just speak to the sketches that I like. I like sketches that do have an ending, which is very, very hard to do. It's very hard to end a sketch, because when you have an idea for a sketch, you're like, here's the premise, and here's what happens, and then that's actually the hardest part, is like ending it. You can see this on SNL, where like the best sketches,
kind of run out of steam.
You can't even tell me like the ending of most of them, because all their best sketches don't even have great endings, because sketches don't even need great endings. Once the memorable thing has happened, I think once you can wrap it up, and maybe a better sketch comedy writer would be like, no, you need a good ending.
The ending of a Saturday Night Live sketch is when the neon sign starts flashing applause, and then the audience applause, and that's how you, the audience, the viewer knows that the sketch is over, because the audience is applauding. People are still in the middle of a conversation, but the sketch is over now, I guess.
I find the best sketches that you can think of, if you're going to give me even your best Monty Python sketch with maybe Monty Python's the exception, because some of the endings of their sketches are the best part, like the banana the fruit self-defense. Where, like, it's built up and it's not funny at all, that sketch, until he shoots him. Then it's funny, and that's how it ends. And because I was like, everyone told me that sketch was really funny, and while I was watching it, I was like, this isn't funny at all. What's going on? And then I burst out laughing when it ended.
Yeah.
So maybe they're the exception to the rule. There is no rule. I'm not an authority, nor do I know what I'm talking about.
And I mean, there's no rules with them either. Like, they really threw the rule book out the window. And but I mean, yeah, some of their sketches didn't really have an ending. Some of their sketches would bleed into other sketches, which is pretty standard now. Like, you'd see, like,
well, you saw that a lot in Mr. Show.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing to point out is that, like, Monty Python came out at, like, such a unique time, like, of the swinging 60s in Britain, where there was, like, that turn away from the conservative era level of thinking post World War II atmosphere, and there was, like, a lot of free love, open use of psychedelics in, like, the party scenes, and, you know, they weren't as groundbreaking in England, because they did have their own sketch comedy influences.
Yes.
What I think they were most well known for doing is taking the two schools of thought that each of their, because like the Pythons kind of came from, you know, a mixture of Oxford and Cambridge, and they were part of like theater troupes of those colleges, and they had like their own different style of working and thinking.
Right, and it was Chapman and Cleese were partners, and then Jones and Palin were partners, and then they found Idol.
Yeah. And Terry Gilliam, who kind of just like stayed in like their own lanes. But the beauty thing about that is like there was never an imbalance of power. You know, someone could be like convinced to join on that side, but like there was such a good agreement on, okay, we can collaborate on this together. But what separates them from some of the other improv troupes, or why they really made it big, is because they were willing to do things that the other comedy troupes weren't doing. It was a little more freewheeling with those theater troupe ones. But what they did was, okay, well, we're not only going to be zany, we're not only going to combine these two different theater schools of thought in our sketch writing, but we're also going to go after, you know, the royal family, the British gentry. We're going to go after the military. We're going to go after history.
A lot of sketches about politics.
And a lot of things that, like, at the time, you know, the British wouldn't feel comfortable making fun of. And not only did they dare to do that, but because they were all brilliant guys who were originally studying, you know, to be doctors and lawyers and bankers, they knew how to speak the lingo of those. And
understand it. And they all had, like, ridiculously high IQs. And, very smart guys. Yeah, and that's what influenced that style of comedy. You somewhat invoked this a little earlier, Andrew, but, like, I just have to ask this question to the room, to the table. What's your favorite sketch? What's your favorite bit? What's your favorite Python bit, moment from a movie or from any of the sketches that you've seen?
My favorite Python bit is when I only remember it from a kid because I don't remember the context, and it's funnier in my brain without the context.
Absolutely.
It is from a Flying Circus sketch, and it was on TV, even though I said I never saw it. I didn't know it was Flying Circus until I rewatched it. I just remember John Cleese sitting at a news desk, and he puts a gun into the sky, fires it, and then a goat hits the desk. And as a child, I wasn't watching the episode. I just remember it was like on TV, and I just like was like, it was already on. I think like my stepdad was watching it, and I just absolutely lost it. I don't know why, but no context. Man at desk, very serious. Fires gun at ceiling. Goat hits desk. And I lost it. And then, of course, the context is there was like a flying goat throughout the thing, and then eventually he killed it.
Yes.
But without context, as a child, that was the funniest thing I had ever seen.
And I imagine after that, he either goes into this long diatribe about, like, now the news, now we're talking about this, or he
That was the end of the episode.
That was the end of the episode.
Yeah. I just remember that happened, and then the credits rolled, and I just, like, my brain broke. I was like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Random funny.
Yeah.
I'm 10. I don't know. So that's my favorite bit is the flying goat.
The flying goat.
John Cleese shoots out of the sky.
From the Flying Circus. That's what
I didn't know it was Flying Circus.
But they're up there in the sky.
Yeah.
The literal one. Yeah. Jameson, you got any ones in the chamber? I mean, there's literally so much to choose from.
I mean, don't make me choose. You know, I could pull a random scene from Monty Python, The Holy Grail. I could even reference like the one banana self-defense class one that's like, yeah, that still makes me laugh. John Cleese just yelling at people makes me laugh.
Oh man, he's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like I'm influenced by what I have seen most recently, but I watched that first season and I was just like shocked at how many like all-time classics are in like the first season. Like I just picked like a random episode, and that, of course, speaking of the writer and star of the movie today that we're going to be talking about, I would say maybe his signature sketch, Nudge Nudge Wink Wink, which, as you say, is one of the Python sketches that has one of the best endings, has one of like the best, funniest buttons to any joke whatsoever. Just like this absurd man talking to like this effete bowler-hatted Terry Jones, and he just won't leave him alone, and he's just doing all this innuendo, and he won't just leave him alone. And just the absolute perfect way to end that sketch by the reveal of him not realizing what sex even is. Like he truly has no clue, and this is all just like inference that he's picked up from someone else. But like, talk about things that I would go around and quote as a child. I was nudging and winking all over the place. I had no idea what any of it meant. I would say the Python sketch that's like firmly in my DNA. It's something that, like you say, that there's that familial sort of like, it's okay to like this because, you know, like our parents are into this too. The thing that always gets me is there's like the diner sketch. I believe it's the Dead Bishop on the Landing sketch where they come in. But like the beginning of that sketch is just like a man ordering food at a diner.
Is that the Dirty Fork one?
No, but I watched that one the other night too, and that's got a great fucking button
one too. No, the punchline.
But it's just this. It's just like this brief interaction. I believe it's Idol and Jones Is doing. Jones was always the craziest when he played a woman. Like they all played women, but Jones's was always like, ow, no! He was the one that was always going,
always like, the loudest,
the loudest one. And the interaction,
and to this day, whenever I'm making fun of like a bickering couple, I will always devote to that.
You're always complaining. Yeah. No, but like the bit that is like taking up like resonance in my brain and truly will never leave me is just this interaction at the beginning of the thing where it's just like this disgusting cafe. And the man's asking, like, well, what's for afters? Well, we have rat pudding, rat sorbet, rat pie, or strawberry tart. Strawberry tart? Well, it's got some rat in it. How much? 3, rather, or not really. Well, I'll have a slice of that without so much rat in it. But it's just, Idol just has, like, this one brief thing where he says, well, that was really horrible. And growing up, whenever I had meals with my dad, he would end every meal by just saying, well, that was really horrible. And I'm just like, it's just like this nice memory that I have associated with this wackadoo sketch.
Brought together by like some absurd comedy troupe from, decades before we were born.
It is so rare, I find, when a joke is just a man dressed in women's clothing. It has to be the character is funny, too. A lot of pantomime is just the joke is a man is in a dress, and that's where the joke ends.
Right.
I never found that funny even as a child. You think a child might find that funny. But it never stuck with me, and I guess because I was privileged enough to get to see some Python.
Yeah.
In which the joke isn't that it's a man in a dress. They're playing a character.
Yeah.
And the character is funny. Little Britain did it best, though, I will say.
Usually just as like the most difficult, the most horrible person that you kind of want to see have a difficult time.
They aren't guilt-free for half the joke is them being...
No, of course not, but it's the 60s, of course. I mean, look, I'm not like here to forgive the transgressions that they have done. And it should be said of the remaining Pythons, two unfortunately have left us, of the remaining 4 Pythons, 2 of them seem like nice dudes. 2 of them seem unproblematic old gentlemen. But obviously, some of this stuff has aged not great. Some of the stuff in Splitting Heirs didn't age great, and that was from 1993. So, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I feel like there was maybe I stepped on a point you were trying to make.
No, not at all. I was just saying, like, a man dressed in women's clothing isn't funny because that's not a joke. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing a character that happens to be a woman that is funny, it can work so well.
And it's funny when the Pythons do it because of the expression on their face or the voice that they're using or the things that they're saying. Very often, the Pythons would play women who weren't, like, quote-unquote, like, the joke characters, and they were just sensitive, nuanced portraits of like, these working class... again, I invoke Terry Jones, who I think was, like, the best of the Pythons to play the women. He always gave his female characters so much soul, and, like, he never commented on them, and, like, when they did go, I mean, they were all commenting on it, but... yeah,
and that's just part of the roots of coming from these theater troupes that likely didn't have women available to play these parts. So yeah, they're gonna put on a dress and be the women characters.
Although the Pythons did enlist like at least like a couple of like semi-regular female cast members.
Yeah, one in particular whose name I'm forgetting. It wasn't.
Let's see if it's in this book.
It wasn't John Cleese's wife.
No,
it was someone else. Carol, someone.
Carol Cleveland.
Yeah.
Carol Cleveland, who, I guess is kind of like
the unofficial.
If they needed like an actual lady in the sketch for whatnot reason.
To play the lady in lingerie that lures the milkman up to her bedroom.
Usually she's in some sort of lingerie.
So should we segue to talk about
shall we do it? Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's
jump in.
Yeah. Let's just do that. All right. So we'll take a little break here, and when we come back, we will get into 1993's Splitting Heirs. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
The oceans connect us all. They cover 2/3 of our planet and contain most of the life on Earth. And as they are responsible for supplying half the world's oxygen and maintaining a stable global climate, they are as important to us as they are vast. But the oceans face many threats, from overfishing, habitat destruction, oil and plastic pollution, and the killing of threatened species like turtles, whales, and sharks. Just a single one of these threats greatly affect the ecosystems of the oceans, causing domino effects to the rest of the planet, and decades of unsustainable practices have brought massive repercussions for the rest of the world. This is where Oceana comes in, an international organization focused solely on oceans, dedicated to achieving specific, time-bound policy victories that help protect and restore the world's oceans. Using science-based policies in important coastal countries, they rebuild abundant and biodiverse oceans. A restored, healthy, and abundant ocean can help fight climate change, sustain livelihoods, and feed more than 1 billion people a healthy meal forever. Together with their supporters and allies, and using fact-based and expedition-powered research, they have fought since 2001 to save the oceans and help feed the world. If you would like to assist in their goal of saving the oceans, and thereby assist in saving the planet, please do so by visiting their website at oceana.org and find out how you can get involved or make a donation to their cause. Again, that website is oceana.org.
And we're back!
Sure are.
Splitting Heirs from 1993. Now, the very first thing we have to discuss, gentlemen, is the theatrical poster. This might be one of the worst posters.
Is that the one where he's holding baby?
Oh, yeah!
Yeah.
So, okay, obviously this movie is leaning into, like, the iconography of, like, the tabloids. And, of course, in Britain...
Oddly so, but yeah.
Oddly so. Cause, well, it's always all like, you won't believe, like, what's happening in this story and whatever. And, like, the opening credits are using all of, like, the typeface and the iconography from tabloids. Now, interesting, it's sort of like a National Enquirer style of, like, tabloids. And, like, tabloids in Britain are, like, a very big thing, but they look significantly different from American tabloids.
They do, yeah. And it's odd because the tabloid press doesn't play a role in this movie.
Yeah. But I do feel like we could spend a good chunk of time just dissecting this poster. So let's take a good look here. It's really trying to give the impression like this is a supermarket tabloid that you're just getting off of the rack. It has a black and white Eric Idle with his shirt off, who is holding a baby with the head of Rick Moranis
wearing a crown.
Wearing a crown. I don't know. Describe any part of this poster.
Catherine Zeta Jones is in there twice. There's 2 pictures of Catherine Zeta Jones.
That's Barbara Hershey.
That's Barbara Hershey?
Yeah.
The black and white one is
That's
Barbara Hershey.
Yeah.
She's blonde in the movie, isn't she? She has black hair.
Yeah, but
oh my God, you are right. In the flashback, she has
in the flashback she's
hair.
a brunette. Yeah.
But his father in the flashback isn't played by Eric Idle, so it's
yes, it is.
We'll get to that. I'm going to take you up on that.
Right.
It's interesting that Catherine Zeta-Jones is in her own little box or whatever. It's
what does it say underneath? It says, "Fiance found in secret love nest with 6-foot inflatable fish, exclusive." The thing is, you mentioned it's a tabloid thing, and now it makes sense.
Right.
When I had seen it, I had not put that together.
Referencing the 6-foot inflatable fish, which is in the movie, but it's
briefly,
barely in the movie. No one even references it.
It's in the background.
Yeah, someone just watched the movie. And it's all well, what else can I throw on here?
I just watched this movie 2 days ago, and I don't remember the inflatable fish.
Well, it is immediately followed by a shot of Catherine Zeta-Jones' bum. So it's fairly understandable if you don't remember the fish.
Was it in that scene?
It was in that scene.
There's a pool behind the bed. It's in that scene?
It's in the pool.
I don't remember this
You see the fish moving, and then you see her moving the fish, and this poster wants you to think this fish is a big deal. I let you know, it isn't. It really is not.
Neither is baby Rick Moranis.
No! What sort of choice, creative choice is that? It's one of those horrifying
this is the
things.
parents. This isn't Eric Idle's actual character that he plays in the movie on the poster. That's the dad?
Yeah.
Those are the parents?
I guess that's the idea, but it's confusing because he's not playing that character in the movie.
If he does, he's in
Eric Idle doesn't play his dad in the flashback?
He is a different actor.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird because in all the portraits, it's Eric Idle in the portrait, so you would think he would be playing the
And the thing is, even if it was Eric Idle, they have taken a minor plot point character who's in a small flashback for 30 seconds and made him the most prominent part of the poster.
Mm-hmm. And then there's some other things on this poster, like the headline. There's 8 headlines here. The big one right above Idol is Duke or Alien, real heir switched at birth, which of course is playing on the tabloid thing. They always bring in aliens here. Right near the top here, we have the headline, Your Weekly Scoop of the Inside Poop. Which is a great thing that you want to put. That's a word that you want to have on your poster that you're going to put in lobbies that people are going to see. Perhaps the most annoying thing about this poster to me is it does the thing that is always annoying, is when a character is bending the fabric of the poster itself. Because we got John Cleese up here in the corner, kind of cutting through the poster, and he's got a look on his face like, maybe I'm in this movie too.
And he's holding a knife.
Who knows what I'm going to get up to?
Which is also a spoiler, because the reveal at the end is that John Cleese is the bad guy, but in this poster, he's obviously the bad guy.
He's obviously the bad guy. It's leading into it.
Eric Idle is the bad guy.
But also,
I forgot his character's name already.
He's a horrible human being, but he's also, I guess, the protagonist that we're supposed to like.
We'll get into that when we will get past the poster.
So is Eric Idle not even on that poster, even though he's the main character and writer?
The character he's playing. What's the character's name?
You could argue he is.
I'm going to call him Eric Idle this whole time.
I mean,
it's Tom.
Tommy Patel.
Oh, right.
Which, of course, we need to get into that nonsense.
That hilarious joke that I was on the floor laughing about the whole
super
time.
briefly before we get into the movie proper. I know
how much more you want to say about the
minutes on the poster. I just want to mention this movie was.
Join us next episode for our movie discussion of Splitting Heirs.
This movie was written by Eric Idle. It was directed by Robert Young. Robert Young's first movie is a movie called Vampire Circus. Now, like most movies, there are multiple posters for the film Vampire Circus, and the interesting thing is that every single one of them is amazing. There is not a bad poster for Vampire Circus that exists.
That is just screaming B movie.
I do like the.
That's amazing looking and doesn't tell me a thing about Vampire Circus.
No, it tells you there's a bunch of skulls
and a naked lady.
She's going to be holding them. She's holding 3 skulls too.
All right, where do I sign?
Maybe implying that she has 3 boobs. So Robert Gunn, he directed Vampire Circus. He also directed the television film The Worst Witch, which, if you are a young Tim Curry fan like I am, that's a very important piece of Tim Curry media, because it is, of course, the movie that gave us this.
Anything can happen on Halloween.
Okay.
Could turn into a cat.
Anyway, that's just like a very weird sort of digital editing thing from that movie where Tim Curry sings a delightful song about Halloween. But also Robert Young was one of 2 credited directors on the film Fierce Creatures, which is another Python-related film. It is the sort of unofficial sequel to A Fish Called Wanda.
I've seen A Fish Called Wanda, and I've never seen Fierce Creatures, but I remember advertisements for it as a kid.
Right. It's a far inferior movie to Fish Called Wanda. But anyway, that's the director. That's what he did. And And now at the 8-minute mark, we can finally start talking about.
He's
awake.
I'm up. All right.
And he's awake.
I mean, so I'm just gonna say it right off the bat here. I think the director does a bit of a disservice, I'd say.
How so? Elaborate.
Because I think this is a funny movie.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And there's a lot of good performances in here. They don't know how to start the movie. They don't really know what to do when the movie gets going. And they sure as hell don't know how to end the movie. But by gum, is it funny?
Here's the thing.
Is it funny? I didn't laugh once.
Uh-oh.
Well, were you watching the movie by yourself?
Yes.
See, this is something that Jameson and I were discussing after the movie was over. I wouldn't say it's like a side-splitting, like, laugh out loud. Well, no, it is a laugh out loud comedy. We laughed out loud a handful of times. Mm-hmm. I think there is something about the shared experience of watching a movie that can make maybe kind of a lousy comedy a little funnier.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I found the movie very awkward.
Oh, yeah.
Like, mostly I was just, like, the jokes were just not landing. They was just so slowly paced. And, like, dark comedy is a fine balance for, like, if I'm gonna laugh at this dark comedy, a comedy about murder, great, love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with the premise of the film. I love the premise of the film. Like you said, it's a funny movie. There is a funny movie in there, but a funny movie is not what I saw.
Sure. Results may vary.
It was almost like Home Alone worked in the same way of, like, trying to kill. Well, he's not trying to kill them. Although you could argue they could have died.
Yeah. It's a home invasion. You know, he's standing his ground.
But like some of the things he does to try to kill them, like, range from, like, wacky hijinks to just straight up, he just tries to stab him. And I'm like,
well, he's running out of ideas at that point.
That was in the beginning. That was one of the first things he tried.
I'm sorry. I have to.
I would think he would be trying to do things that would be like make it look like an accident, like burning the house down, like it was an accident. But just stabbing him in broad daylight.
I'm sorry to correct you. The natural succession of Eric Idle's plans to kill Rick Moranis follow the sensible format of poison, explosives, and then, of course, hot air balloon. When those first 2 don't work, you immediately go to hot air balloon. That's number 3. Because, and then eventually he's all like, I don't know, stab him with something? Shoot him with a gun? I don't know, I'm out of ideas here.
Because it feels like all of those things that kept being, like, slow, and he kept narrating it. Like, I didn't need the narrating.
No, they didn't.
And, like, that all could have been one scene. Like, if this was a farce and a stage play, it would be one scene in which he kind of... Yeah, it is, but, like, it should have been just him trying to kill him and failing in one take with one wide shot or just following him around, and it could have worked. Like, yeah, as you said, the director did a disservice to it, but maybe Eric Idle isn't blameless. Did he write, like, then I narrate this, or was that the director's idea? I don't know.
I think what happened there is he just wrote down things on, like, a sticky piece of paper, threw them up in the air, the director just rummaged around and is like, okay, well, now that we have, like, our setup, we'll just put these scenes in, like, this, unfocused order. And then we'll get to the point where, okay, well, 20 minutes of that have gone by. Let's move on to the next stage in the movie.
We can't let Eric Idle off the hook entirely as the writer of this movie, because the writing in this movie isn't very good.
Well, we can't let him off the hook. He's the only credited writer for the movie, so yeah.
And him thinking that he's Indian for the first half of the movie, which but it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's his family is introduced, and then he's like, "Oh, you mean I'm not Indian?" And then that family is never mentioned again. They're just completely forgotten. That whole plot is forgotten. And what was the point of it?
Entire characters who seem like they're going to be important in the first act are completely dropped and don't show up again until the very end.
And there's an important character that shows up, I want to say, over 30 minutes into the movie, and is unceremoniously dropped. Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing about this movie. About midway through, it all started to click for me. Oh, this is a cartoon. This isn't like this movie does not take place in reality. This is a wacky hijinks Benny Hill style Looney Tune of a movie, and as it goes on, it gets further and further away from reality. It starts off kind of in like a place where I'm all like, okay, this sort of looks like the earth and world that I, as a person, understand. But as it goes on, you realize, this is...
I got the cartoon world right away. I just think it was poorly done.
Well, you're just more insightful than I am.
I mean, it starts with him in the 60s losing a baby and not giving a shit.
Yeah. Leaving a baby in a restaurant. Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's actually set up the actual story.
Yes.
All right, so the premise is that there is this lineage of dukes. It's a lineage of nobility.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the family is cursed and bad things happen to the members of this family, and yet they keep sprouting off different offsprings.
I mean, I can literally read the synopsis on IMDb because it is fairly concise. I like the way that the synopsis ends, too. A duke dies and leaves the title and wealth to his adult son. But who's the real son? The found baby raised in the USA, or the abandoned baby raised by a Hindi family in London? Comedy follows.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I guess that technically is what happens.
Yeah. The idea is that the 14th duke, he married an American, and they were out celebrating their newborn son at a restaurant, and then because it was the fucking swinging 60s, they left the baby alone in the restaurant.
They did this thing that I was very confused. Did you have any idea what this is? Where it looked like they were like lighting little pieces of paper, and then they flew up into the air.
Those were feathers.
They were feathers?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I don't remember this part of the film.
Yeah, we don't need to get into it, obviously, because there's so many.
Yeah, not like those posters.
Speaking of him being born in this, how old is Eric Idle's character supposed to be?
Well, I mean, he is older than the person who plays his mother.
He is 5.
That is very obvious.
He is 5 years older than Barbara Hershey, who plays his mother, and he is 10 years older than Rick Moranis, and they are apparently supposed to be born roughly around the same time.
And that could be funny, but it looks like a mistake.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that was a joke he was going for. It just seems like a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just feels like the energy of this movie is every time something doesn't make any sense, you just picture Eric Idle in a room just being all like, shut up, whatever. It's, it's a fucking movie.
So basically, there are two babies that are switched at birth. One goes on to live in America as the son of a rich duke, and the other one is adopted by an Indian family. That person grows up to be Eric Idle, who believes he's Indian.
Look, I'll just say, it's just the jerk. It's just the joke from the jerk. I was born a poor black child, except it's not nearly as funny, and they don't really do anything with.
Because you can do something with the joke. The joke is fine in itself, but it doesn't have any punchline in it.
We were saying it could have been a whole lot worse. The circumstances
absolutely
around this could have been
Eric Idle
significantly worse.
It is. I wonder. I don't know this, but did he want to do an Indian accent?
I mean, I'm almost certain you can find footage of Eric Idle out there doing an Indian accent.
Trying it out.
Because whoever talked him out of it, if he was talked out of it, maybe he never was going to do it.
Maybe he might. I don't know.
Because the sheer amount of restraint. Because if he had an Indian accent the whole movie, I would have been like, oh no.
And he's wearing an ashram, and he has the
bindi when he's going to church. But,
absolutely.
But hey, maybe he was raised under that.
Yeah, and he refers to himself as Asian when he meets new people.
That's a little fucked. That's actually very fucked. And he's dressing in like traditional Indian garb whenever he goes out and everything.
Well, he believes himself to be Asian.
Yeah, and that's
Because why wouldn't he? Look at his family, look at his immediate family,
and his massive Indian family never said to, "Hey, you were adopted as a child." They waited until he was a grown ass man to tell him that. Anyways,
I can also just tell you, growing up, older British people think accents are infinitely funny and don't need a punchline.
Yeah,
sure. I don't know why, but I know many older British people who I won't name, but that you could just do an accent with no punchline and they will howl with laughter.
They're subscribers, so you can give them a shout out.
So Eric Idle works at this investment banking firm
run by the Duke.
Yes,
like the Duke. They're
like stockbrokers or something.
We gotta get into like the genealogy of this and whatnot because it is confusing. But unbeknownst to him, he is working for his father.
Yeah.
Who I want to reiterate is not played by Eric Idle. He just found someone who really looks like Eric Idle.
Okay.
And they go through like the history.
I thought it was Eric Idle until you mentioned that. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, according to the poster, it was Eric Idle. It would have made more sense if it was Eric Idle, but because they don't share any scenes together. But yeah, I don't know why. I don't know the creative choice here.
So the actual Duke. His son from America is coming around, and he wants Eric Idle to show him a good time around town. And the American son is played by noted Canadian Rick Moranis. And when Rick Moranis first appeared on screen, and he's rollerblading, he's got his dorky helmet on, and he's doing donuts, both you and I, Kaz, looked at him and went, "Aw," because it's just so nice to see Rick Moranis and shit.
Oh, I miss Rick Moranis so much. He was the only actor, if I saw this as a kid, the only actor I would have recognized is Rick Moranis. Because I saw Little Shop when I was a kid, and I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Ghostbusters, all Rick Moranis classics. And he was a huge part of my childhood, because he was in every movie I saw.
And this is he's
playing against type. Wouldn't you say?
Well, yes and no. The way the character is written, he is playing against type, but Rick Moranis can't help but bring his affable, likable energy to every scene in this movie.
Mm-hmm. And if he's supposed to be a jerk, it's like he's so lovable.
It's not working.
Just so lovable.
Because he's in this opening scene and he's rollerblading inside and he's crashing into people and they have like a wild night on the town where he takes the company money and he blows it on strippers and whatever. And it's like you can see like this written for like a Dangerfield. But you get Rick Moranis in there, and it's just all like, I would love to hang out with this guy. He seems like a blast.
He's unpretentious. He's happy to see everybody. He's thrilled that he's a Duke, but he's not a snob about it. He wants you to be like, check out this cool thing that I'm going to inherit. Hey, come into my mansion. Everybody come on over, and I want to share this.
And he's genuinely thrilled that Eric Idle is his new best friend.
Yeah.
Like, the second that they meet, he's all like, did we just become best friends? Like we did. It takes Idle a little bit.
That is one of the, if not the biggest problem with this film, is I don't know who to root for. I don't know who to hate, because Rick Moranis is like kind of lovable. Eric Idle has nothing really, he's trying to kill him, and I don't care.
I hate Eric Idle. The thing is like, Tommy Patel, Idle, he didn't really give himself that much to work with. I mean, it's funny, like, he wrote the script. He's the main character. It is, by all accounts, a vehicle that he wrote for himself. There's not much to this character that he's playing. I don't really get, what's his whole deal? Like, he just seems like an utter buffoon the entire time. Mm-hmm. He makes all of, these, snap decisions, and then after he makes them, he's all like, my God, what have I done? Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem to really have a thought in his head, and that's because Idle, the screenwriter, hasn't really written a cohesive narrative. What he is great at, I would say, is gags. Yeah. And this movie is full of pretty good gags. They don't really inform anything else, but taken out of context on their own, there's some good laughs to be had here.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see Idle and Moranis together because it feels like these two major comedy worlds colliding, SCTV and Monty Python. And also, just while we're still on the Moranis train here, what's crazy is that this is the fourth to last movie that he made. He was really this was kind of the beginning of the end for Moranis. Yeah. He had this amazing run with the Honey movies and Ghostbusters and stuff like My Blue Heaven and Little Shop and everything. After this, he does Big Bully and Little Giants. He has like a big movie and a little movie.
Yeah.
And like
both of which I remember watching both those movies.
It's good.
Yeah.
They're classic like TBS like staples. And then Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves goes straight to VHS. And then that's it. That's his last on-camera appearance. He did a voice in Brother Bear, which is just doing the Bob and Doug thing again.
Yeah.
And that was just it. And he just... And of course, everyone knows the story that his wife sadly passed away, and he just said, "No, I don't want to be in Hollywood. I want to raise my kids. I want to be like an actual dad for my kids."
The strange thing now is his kids are grown up. He could absolutely fall back into like some supporting roles.
He was about to, and then he left his fucking apartment one day, and some asshole fucking cold clocked him in the face. And
what? I didn't know that.
Did you not know this? Like back in like 2020, shortly after he was on the Mint Mobile commercial with Ryan Reynolds. The briefest of buzz on the internet was all like, "Is Moranis back? Does this mean like big things for him?" And then a few months later, it was like reported in like TMZ or some rag or whatever that like he was leaving his downtown apartment in New York or wherever he lives, and a random person just walked by and punched Rick Moranis in the face.
What?
Like
Rick?
the least punchable person on the planet.
I'll say.
And like it feels like after that happened, Rick Moranis was all like, "Well, I'm not going outside again."
I don't
he
blame
just
him.
went back inside, and I don't blame him one bit.
That's what I said.
And we need to find this person, and he need the highest tribunal
And he's
in the
answer for
world
his crimes against humanity there.
is crimes against Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Where were we?
Well, it's like near the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, all right. Jesus Christ.
Just watched it. I already forgot it. They're brothers?
No.
Oh, they're just
there was a switch at birth thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try and, since we're talking about this, let's try and break down what actually happens, because the movie does a piss poor job of explaining this, and it does it like super piecemeal. So Eric Idle is the baby. He is the Duke. He is the son of the Duke and
proper heir,
Hershey,
yeah.
the proper heir who is left in the restaurant.
Mhm.
I guess when he got left at the restaurant, this is never shown in the movie, and no one really outright says it, but what I was able to infer is that the cook at that restaurant, Mrs.
Bullock or whatever.
Mrs. Bullock worked at that restaurant, saw that they left a baby behind, I guess happened to have her infant baby with her, and she did a switcheroo?
No, I think what happened was, on a separate occasion, she also misplaced her baby, and when the Duke and his American wife and Mrs. Bullock went to the police station or whatever to pick up their lost child, there was a switch-up. I don't think
it would have made more sense if it was done intentionally. This feels like the movie just needed workshop.
No, I thought she did it intentionally so that her child, Rick Moranis, would be raised in a dukedom or whatever,
and that would make her a villain of the film, which would make sense.
And I guess
she died in the fridge though, or something.
But then I guess separate to that, at some point in time, she becomes the cook for the family.
for that same Duke, yeah.
But none of this shit is ever explained.
Yeah.
So, like, this is all just inference.
Because
And
I
I'm not
remember
confident about any
there's
of
a
it.
scene where they find the cook dead.
Yes.
And
That's Rick Moranis' mother.
I remember that happening and me being like, who the hell is this cook?
Well,
that
she
died?
is introduced like 30 minutes into the movie.
I forgot that she existed. I had to go on Wikipedia, look at the plot, be like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Oh wait.
There's a plot on Wikipedia that for this movie.
Yeah, I had to
that
read it.
blows my mind.
Except no, I lied. I lied earlier. I laughed out loud once in this movie.
That's the time.
And let me tell you, it was after the cook died. And I don't know why. I don't think it was even supposed to be a funny part.
Oh, I think I know what you're about
But
to
it was
say.
like the maid
Yes!
or something, and she goes, I came down for a slice of ham. And I don't know why
We
thought
both
that was
we
funny.
both laughed at that.
You laughed a little harder than I did.
Well,
I just came down for a slice of ham, sir, and there she was.
That line was very funny and delivered perfectly. And whoever played the maid and said that one line about your slice of ham,
I think
you saved the
stole
movie.
the movie.
I
You
think
saved
it's
the movie for Andrew.
maybe the only line she has in the movie. Again,
It's the only thing I laughed at.
it's the character. We see her throughout the movie because she's got a great face and she's mugging like crazy. But until she says that ham line, I'm all like, I didn't know this character spoke. I thought this was just like a character in the background.
So the Duke dies, falls off his yacht, and Rick Moranis, he's now the Duke. He's now got the official title. He has like a big celebration at his newly inherited mansion. And, he's having a big party. Everyone's there. He's throwing people around.
The party, it's a funeral / party, because it is literally his father's funeral, but he's, like, playing it up and, like, standing on tables and doing this.
Brash American as a...
None of you can see what I'm doing, but it's, it's the Dangerfield.
Yeah. And that's where we meet his mother, who is 5 years or so younger than Eric Idle, and who is just an absolute man-eater, and, makes moves on every guy there, including Eric Idle, who is not aware that is not his birth mother yet.
No.
And we also meet Catherine Zeta Jones, who takes a little while before it is revealed that she is Rick Moranis' betrothed.
This is like one of Catherine Zeta Jones' like first roles.
I'm talking about the plot. I don't give a shit about her career. So anyways, she gives him a spoon. There's like, hey, take a fucking spoon. He's got 1 million of them. And it has like the seal of the Duke.
Yeah.
And when he takes that home to his Indian family, they said, oh, when you were adopted, that was one of like your 2 possessions that were with you. This spoon that has that emblem on it and a silver rattle, which the birth mother mentions that, oh yeah, when we left the restaurant, one of the things that was also left behind was a rattle. And that's what clues in Eric Idle to the fact that, oh shit, I'm the actual rightful heir to the dukedom.
Right.
There we go. Now you can talk about Catherine Zeta Jones.
Got through it. No, I didn't really have anything to say about Catherine Zeta Jones. I just wanted to mention that it was interesting that she made it onto the poster, given that she wasn't really like a name at this point. I guess she just had like immediate star quality. People knew this like buxom Welsh lass shows up in the movie here, and we got.
I can see why you'd want to have her on the poster.
We gotta get a lot more of her in here. Back it up a bit. Barbara Hershey. I think she's great in this movie. I think she's great. She's so funny. She's just like really like laying into like this
sultry, Black Widow
the
type,
vicious type character and whatever. Doing great work. Yeah,
she has one of my favorite fucking gags in the movie.
Where she's eating the pills?
No, the boat. We'll get to that.
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely.
We'll get to that, yeah.
All right, I feel like we're wildly off track. So
we are.
They have the party.
What's your timeline like?
8:30.
8:30. Okay, well.
Oh my gosh. All right, so this is around the time where Eric Idle decides he has to kill Rick Moranis, right?
Well, he goes to the lawyer played by John Cleese.
Oh, how could we forget about Sheldrake?
So he says it like
Sheldrake?
John Cleese. So he goes to John Cleese and he says, is there a case? Look, here's the photo of me as a baby. You do a blood test.
He was also the lawyer that like did all the paperwork.
That handled the adoption paperwork. Yeah, and he's like, well, sadly, there's nothing that you can really do. It's more of like your word versus his. They have all this circumstantial evidence that kind of points against you. However, the lordships like to keep a line of succession clicking along. So if something were to happen to him and you were to step in and say, well, I'm an actual rightful heir, though they won't look into it. They'll say, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Boy, if only someone were to murder this guy for you. I mean, you could get him shot. He could have a car accident.
So, unless there's an accident... What? An accident. Accidents happen, car crashes, shooting accidents, people falling out of windows, or drinking mercuric chloride in brandy, which not only conceals the taste but also makes subsequent chemical detection practically impossible, that sort of thing, accidents.
He's giving him all the suggestions because John Cleese wants him to murder Rick Moranis.
Yeah,
he wants
so he can get, and he wants to like elbow into like this the briefest amount of a character that John Cleese is allowed to have in this, and he's just like a money grubbing opportunist, and he's trying to get Eric Idle to embrace murder. And then it's like it's like the fox hunt. Right? It's like the fox hunt is like the first time that Idle is trying to...
when he tries to poison him, but then like the animal rights people
the other protesters came by saying that you don't do a fox hunt, and that's what startles Rick Moranis from drinking the flask. Priest picks up, drinks that, and then, a priest dies. Moving on.
We can't move on, because I feel like this is like... This is what you were saying earlier, Andrew, about like... We love a black comedy, but like they're things have to mean something. Like they're like black comedies are funny because like there are actual like stakes to what is going on. And the Eric Idle accidentally poisoning this priest comes to absolutely nothing, and it's never
brought up again. It's not like later in the movie they're like, you are actually a murderer. He just gets away with everything.
And I kept waiting for this shoe to drop where it's all like, oh, the priest was corrupt, or he was, he was doing some like nasty things, or
it becomes a plot point where like, oh shit, like is someone trying to kill you? Like people close to us are dying. And the only reason that I didn't dwell on that too much is because I think that's just a commentary on the idle rich. They're like, oh, someone who's not associated with us by blood had died. Oh right. Well, moving on to our chalet in the French Isles.
And then like all of the working class staff get bumped off, and that plays a little bit better because it's eventually revealed that John Cleese is the one killing all of the staff, except this priest. This movie ends, and everyone has a happy ending, and we're led to believe it's all like everything worked out, except for the fact that Eric Idle is a fucking murderer. He murdered an innocent man, and it's never referenced.
He attempted to murder. Lots of people could have died in that fire.
Yeah.
He just got away with it. He still belongs in jail.
Attempted murder is still a crime. So when he's going around trying to stab Rick Moranis, but he conveniently just stabs like the pheasant that they were going to eat instead, like that could still be attempted murder, a crime.
He's getting really sloppy at that point too, because he's just like he has like these like big elaborate setups, and then he just grabs like a giant candlestick. He's like, I guess I'll just bludgeon him. The thing is he's not thinking about any of these murders.
He's not thinking, and here's a big point that I wanted to make. He wants to have the dukedom because he wants to have the big mansion, the fancy car, the beautiful wife, and yet he is living in the mansion with Rick Moranis and Catherine Zeta Jones at this point. It reminds me of that old Hollywood story where like when George Clooney got his first multi-million-dollar deal, the first thing he did was he gave $1 million to some of his closest friends so he wouldn't have to be a millionaire alone. I get the feeling that if Eric Idle just sat idle, no pun intended, but that just came to me.
The pun was absolutely intended.
If he just done nothing, his life would have been taken care of, because Rick Moranis seems to like take care of his own, loves having Eric Idle around, and doesn't seem to mind him, hanging out on their honeymoon.
He so easily could have been the Kato Kalin of that situation.
Yeah.
He just lives in like the pool house, and then eventually when someone murders Rick Moranis, he can get interviewed on all like the talk shows and whatnot. And yeah, no, absolutely, you're right. Like if he had just like hung out, eventually he would have gotten something out of the deal. And then there's like a whole succession of different murder attempts. There's some skeet shooting going on. I guess Eric Idle has figured out how to make a bomb. This is not a skill that he has referenced at all earlier in the movie, but he apparently has working knowledge of explosives, because he turns one of these skeets into
a homing device.
I forgot about this scene until you mentioned it right now. I actually forgot the scene.
It comes really fast too. It comes fast and loose.
He turns a fucking pool skimmer into an octopus.
I remember that. That was just a weird, awkward scene to watch.
Yeah.
Because Rick Moranis is clearly not choking. He's like fine.
Getting wrapped up in this thing.
And what is this thing?
He went to Radio Shack.
It's a pool cleaner that has many arms.
Yeah.
Like, does this device exist?
I don't think.
And you control it remotely?
The whole point of those pool cleaner things is you throw it in the pool and it cleans the pool on its own. You don't need to control it with a fucking radio control. It's already doing the thing.
And it has 8 arms and it's designed to entrap children.
Yeah. And somehow Rick Moranis survives that attack, and I couldn't tell what the explanation was.
Well, he's breathing into it like it's like a scuba.
Oh, like a snorkel?
I guess.
And then he talks underwater. He's like, everything is okay. I'm all right.
Well, need I remind you guys, this movie was written by a Monty Python member, so
it doesn't have to.
That doesn't have to make sense.
Before we get off the skeet shooting thing, just because I know you wanted to reference this,
yeah.
The radio control bomb or whatever goes towards Moranis. He knocks it out of the air with the butt of the gun because he can't shoot for shit. It goes into an adjoining lake house, and that is when we find Randy Mom Barbara Hershey in a boat with
one of the guys,
just this kiss ass who works with Idle at the thing, and he's been around. But yeah, they're making out in the boat, and Barbara Hershey has this funny thing. It's like, I was just showing him the view.
Oh yeah.
And again, this guy doesn't have a line here, but his reaction is super funny.
Both of their reaction is very good.
He's just kind of getting up and looking around, and then looking back.
Yeah, she's pointing out at things in a very panicked way. Yeah, that was cute. I like
it's good
that
stuff. Yeah, and then Oh yeah, Rick Moranis is going to get married to Catherine Zeta Jones because she's a bit of a social climber. We find out that her character is like heiress to like a beer fortune.
They mention that, but it doesn't really matter.
What?
They do?
Comes to absolutely nothing.
How do I remember? I just watched it.
Andrew.
I just watched this movie.
The reason why you don't remember it is because it truly does not matter.
Yeah,
but
that would make sense.
This has all been mentioned, so
we must have done something because I think my eyes glazed over a lot.
You said 2 days ago. We watched it last night.
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah. So by tomorrow, you'll have forgotten everything.
Yeah, this is a 48-hour movie for certain. You can't stay in your mind for
fairly
any
forgettable,
longer
if I'm being honest.
So,
but yes, she is engaged to Rick Moranis, but she wants to have like one final fling. So she pegged Eric Idle for that. And Eric Idle, the writer of the movie, has sex with young Catherine Zeta Jones.
Yeah, Eric Idle, the writer of this movie, has women constantly throwing themselves at him. Mm-hmm. We didn't even mention Sadie Frost, who's in the movie earlier on as like his secretary. And she's all over the first act of this movie, like, oh, this is going to be a character, huh?
Yeah.
And then no, she just vanishes from the movie, like his Indian family and like half of the supporting cast.
Yeah. I don't understand how you can be comfortable doing that. Like, if I ever wrote a movie with a sex scene, I would never be comfortable casting myself in it. Like, I just don't see how you're not embarrassed to do that. It's so weird.
Well, you're not a pervy creep, so.
No, I am a pervy creep.
Hey, let's not assume.
Okay,
here,
all right, yeah.
But I mean, I don't know like what like the situation was. I don't know if Eric Idle specifically wrote this movie so he could get naked on screen, but he certainly does.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a little something for everyone in this scene because you get like a brief shot of a young Catherine Zeta Jones's tushy. That's very nice. And then you get a much longer shot of Eric. You are seeing like some major underball going on there. Like he's hanging pretty low in that one scene. And yeah, he's on screen and he's naked for like a good chunk of it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, that's sadly one of the things you remember from this movie.
I remember, like, the setup for a farce, again, where he's, like, in the closet, and you're expecting jokes to come out of it, but instead nothing really happens.
Oh, you didn't love the hilarious punchline where he's naked in the hallway and there's an old lady with a dog and she's not happy with him at all? Weren't you slapping your knee?
I honestly don't remember that.
Did you watch the movie?
I remember him being in the closet and Rick Moranis was there, and I was waiting for, like, well, what hijinks are going to happen, and then nothing happened, and then he just left.
Oh, God.
You don't remember Catherine Zeta Jones going, oh, it's so big, and then the reveal is it's a ring!
Oh, I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. I was on the floor laughing at that. I think I passed out from laughter.
So they're engaged.
Yeah.
She's already had sex with Eric Idle. He's the best man for Rick Moranis, so he's taking him out for a bachelor party.
Yeah.
He says, the good thing about the bachelor party is that it gave me an excuse to get Rick Moranis drunk, even though he has been drinking in every scene that he is in, so you don't need any sort of excuse whatsoever.
Exactly.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, his third plan for murder is hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Hot air balloon murder.
Yeah. Which he survives, because I don't know.
Of course you would! See, it's a very easy thing to survive.
Well, he's drunk when he's put into the hot air balloon, and then, like, okay, he'll probably run out of fuel sometime over the
those things come down.
Yeah. And
look, I'm not saying that they're completely, like, safe and anyone can get into a hot air balloon and have, like, a great time. No, you need to know how to work it, but imagine if it goes up, it runs out of hot air, and then it comes down, and then,
so there goes Eric Idle's foolproof plan yet again. So he makes the wedding time. Catherine Zeta Jones is actually carrying Eric Idle's baby.
Or so we think. Catherine Zeta Jones' character, Kitty, I believe is the name of the character, can't seem to stop lying. And I don't really know why. I don't really know why she has so many deceptions going on. Because she's a fairly straightforward character, but she has all of, like, these, like, mini deceptions. Like, she has sex with Eric Idle behind Rick Moranis' back, and then when she becomes pregnant, she tells Eric Idle that it's his kid. There's like a major time jump in this movie after like the kid is born, where there's like 9 months where I guess like nothing happened. No one made any attempts on Rick Moranis' life in the 9 months. that they did. And then after the baby is born, we're right back at it.
Yeah. Well, doesn't she say she picks up on the fact that he's trying to kill Rick Moranis?
I don't know.
Even though we never see her catch him do
but I don't know why that would make him stop.
Yeah.
If the baby was his, it's because now he wants to take care of the baby. I would feel like that would give him more fuel for wanting to kill Rick Moranis, so he can step in and take over.
He does have a bit of a turn once the kid is born. He stops trying to kill Rick Moranis, and he just wants to be a doting father.
He just goes on killing priests.
Yeah.
It was just that one time.
Just murdering the clergy.
Yeah, no. He just did it that one time, and that was early. And his guy doesn't even think. And
it was an act. He was trying to murder someone else.
Come on, we've all been there. And the baby's born, and John Cleese doesn't like that because he keeps showing up. He keeps inferring that him and Idol are working together. And it's not till the very end. He's all like, I don't think you're holding up your end of the bargain.
Yeah, they do like the whole thing where like, go away. Yes, more of that. Say that to me.
I think you better leave.
You're right. If anyone saw us talking together.
No, I didn't mean that.
No, of course.
Get out of here.
Good thinking.
I don't want to see you again.
Oh, all right. If you insist.
Yeah.
They got to keep it on the
DL. Not picking up on this whatsoever. And this is where Cleese is basically taking over and becoming the murderer. He's not great at murdering Rick Moranis, but he's very good at murdering people associated with Rick Moranis, including the cook, who, as I mentioned earlier, is Rick Moranis' biological mother in the movie. And he does eventually learn that that's his biological mother. Doesn't seem that heartbroken at her.
That's what I was
horrible murder, but also, before he realizes that that's his biological mother, he still has all of this love and affection for her, just as, his cook that he, grew up with.
Yeah, knows her all his life.
You would think this woman's death would affect him in some way.
Yeah. But no death affects him.
No, nothing seems to affect him whatsoever.
No, the nanny blowing up doesn't seem like everyone's kind of shocked, but they move on quite quickly. Same with the priest.
The nanny blows up. Eric Idle just so happened to take the baby out of the pram at that moment, but because Cleese was after the baby, he was trying to kill the baby. Even though later on he says, I'm going to kill you three, and I've made myself the legal guardian of the baby, which doesn't make any fucking sense. But at this point in time, the car is flipped over, and it's running on the two bicycles. So at this point in time, I'm all like, all right, you know what? This is the movie I'm watching now. I'll stop writing down this doesn't make any logical sense, because none of this makes any logical sense at this point.
Yeah, I remember John Cleese revealing himself as like, it was me. I tried to murder the baby. I wanted you to murder him so that I would inherit the estate. And I was like, how does that... Does that work? How does that work?
You were a lawyer for them at one point in time. I don't know how you stand to inherit anything at this point.
Well, he drew up all the paperwork. It would make sense. And
how would that work?
How would that hold up?
How would that ever hold up? There's someone to be like, I see, you drew up a bunch of paperwork that made you the heir, and then they mysteriously died.
I guess it must have...
because the baby is now going to inherit the dukedom, with parents gone, grandparents gone, the only legal guardian left is the lawyer. So I guess you can stay here in the estate.
Yeah, he said his plan is it's not a perfect plan, but I still get to live here rent free for 18 years. Even though he has not factored Barbara Hershey into this plan.
No, not at all.
And to his detriment, as we find out, because she's the one that drops the fucking flower pot on his head.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like a dog statue.
Oh no, it's a puma! Oh my god, we haven't even referenced the running joke of the puma, which
there was a running joke of a puma.
They do bring it up
on the Duke coat of arms. It's got two pumas on it.
Oh, on details I did not know.
Yeah, I know, right? And then every time there's an exterior shot or people entering the estate, they say one of the pumas have escaped. Have you caught that puma yet? No, not quite yet. And then it's
I just watched the movie 2 days ago. I don't remember any puma.
Do you remember the literal puma that shows up at the end of the movie and almost eats John Cleese? Were you asleep?
No.
Did you fall asleep at this point?
Oh, man.
There's a literal puma in the movie, Andrew. I hate to tell you this.
Yeah. I remember Eric was chased by dogs. I remember him being chased by dogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought the dogs ate John Cleese.
That was a big-ass puma.
Because I thought they brought it back. So I was like, what was the point of the dogs? And then it was the dogs are back, and they ate John Cleese.
That was just another failed killing attempt of Eric Idle when he gets chased by dogs.
I guess if you missed, like, the 3 or 4 times they brought up the puma in conversation, then the ending where it attacks John Cleese wouldn't make any sense.
I'm trying to think of, like...
This is a real eye-opening experience for me in how you watch movies.
Now I just want
I guess if movies don't engage me, I guess I check out. Like, I glide them. When I was watching it, I sat down and watched it.
Let's throw out some scenes.
I forgot so much of it.
Let's throw out some scenes that happen in this movie and see if you remember them.
What's great is we could say anything at this point, and he might believe us.
Do you remember when Eric Idle was trying to establish an alibi, so he was playing a bagpipes in front of a family on a train, and then handing out his business cards afterwards?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I remember that.
All right.
I forgot about
Kaz,
it until right now. It was like, because the plan was they'd be like, oh, that man was playing the bagpipes.
Solid alibi, yeah.
And he hands out all the cards with his name on it. Like, remember that name? Yeah. Do you remember when he has a Hindu dream sequence?
I remember that because it says on the fucking screen, or Indian dream sequence.
No, it says Hindu dream sequence. I wrote it down.
It's his fantasy.
I guess it would be Hindi dream sequence. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it said
like
Hindu.
I needed the title card, otherwise I might have thought this was a ridiculous movie.
Can I say one thing, though? Like, it's obviously a Hindu dream sequence. The fact that there is a title card that says Hindu dream sequence makes it twice as funny for me.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have laughed if the words Hindu dream sequence weren't there.
Yeah.
He's not wrong that adding that makes the joke funnier.
That is exactly from the Monty Python school of
100%.
Yeah.
It's like number 1, the larch. Like it's just basically, and there are lots of like jokes in this that are like maybe like hints or nods or nod, wink, wink, to Monty Python. I think like one of when like Cleese is talking to Idle at one point, and Idle's saying like, "Get out of here! I don't want you here." And Cleese is all like, "Oh, I feel like he doth protest too much." At one point in time, he literally does very pointedly say, "Say no more," and I'm all like, "That has to be a reference. That has to be like an in-joke between two old buds."
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It seems like one of those things that like this could have worked again if maybe Rick Moranis' character was like racist and we hated him and he like
was a jerk
against like Hindu culture, and then near the end of the movie he uses something Eric Idle uses something he learned from Hindu culture to defeat Rick Moranis. And it's like, you fool! Like they could have brought it back. It could have worked but it's all dropped.
So what you're saying is the way to improve this movie is by adding racism.
Yeah, I can't wait to see
Interesting.
By making a hateable villain. Yes.
Right.
But the villain is the main character.
Why not make John Cleese racist and then Eric Idle can
sure.
Moranis is his buddy. I don't want Moranis to be evil.
Maybe not make him raised by an Indian family.
I mean, you could also do that. You could also
sometimes the simplest explanation is
Eric Idle. You could totally just not do that.
Yeah.
Is one way of attacking this thing. No, because Moranis has only ever been evil in one movie, and that was Spaceballs, and that was a very scary performance. I don't need him to do that again.
Yeah.
But like he was like a middle class guy. He was like working a stockbroker job. Like it seemed like it would have also made more sense if he was like really poor and like really wanted to, and it felt like he really was entitled to this because his life is so hard. But his life seemed okay.
He lived at home with his family in like a small apartment that didn't look like it had enough room for all of those people living there, which again is just the joke from The Jerk.
Yeah.
It's just he lives at home and he has a big family that are a different nationality from him.
So the movie wraps up very fucking quickly.
Oh, this movie wraps up like this movie forgot that it had like fucking dinner reservations.
Like it had a fucking deadline.
This movie's all like, I have got to go. I have to get the fuck out of here.
In the span of like 5 minutes, the mother realizes that Eric Idle is her actual biological son and the true heir. But they have this confession in the nursery, so Catherine Zeta Jones and Rick Moranis, they hear it on the baby monitors. Now they're aware of it.
I mean, this is so stupid. I mean, like, it's pointless to point out the stupid things of this movie, but like the setup for this scene is ridiculous. So Rick Moranis, Catherine Zeta Jones, Barbara Hershey, they're all in one room. They can hear the baby on the baby monitor being fussy. The lovebirds don't want to leave, so Barbara Hershey's like, fine, I'll go look at the baby. She has left the room, because she has heard the baby on the baby monitor in the room she is staying in. In the time it takes her to get to the room, Eric Idle has gone into the room, picked up the baby, changing the baby's diaper. When Barbara Hershey goes into the room, she immediately starts, getting sexy on Eric Idle, even though there's a fucking child there, whatever. And they have, this big revelation where she finds, the silver rattle. Oh my god, you're my son. Completely forgetting the fact that there is a baby monitor in the room, and the two people that she has just up can clearly hear everything. That never enters into her head once, even though it is the reason she left the room in the first place.
They went the Game of Thrones route on this, but she just forgot.
She's overwhelmed with emotions.
Because this is where the farce comes in. This is where the cartoon of it comes in. She sees the rattle. She has no further question. She just immediately sees that he is in possession of the rattle. She immediately goes, "My baby!" And it's
the rattle that he carries in his pocket with him at all times. In case a baby occurs.
I would have had several follow-up questions, but never mind. We got to move on from this.
Rick Moranis, he storms off. He gets into his car, which John Cleese has rigged to blow if it, reaches 88 miles per hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric Idle drives after him in a kind of a chase sequence.
There's a couple of Frenchmen in a car.
Yeah.
Oh, they got their bicycles. I don't know.
On the roof, and the car flips over somehow.
I don't know what Idle had against the French, but we really want these two characters to not have a good time.
Car perfectly balances on the two bikes. Rick Moranis' car does explode, but in a scene off camera, he conveniently mentions, "Oh yeah, I got out to take a piss," and in that exact moment, someone stole my car, and then
because
it blew up.
I pulled the car over for a piss. Some schmuck took it.
No.
Steals a car in the middle of nowhere.
Who was there?
They're in the middle of nowhere on a highway and secluded in the forest when some guy was just standing by himself
just waiting.
A car.
Just waiting, a drifter, yeah.
Didn't John Cleese cut his brakes?
I think he
I thought that was the thing. I thought he couldn't stop.
He kept making these bomb jokes when he typically sold.
I don't know.
Maybe the car thief was French.
Sure.
That was what it was.
Bon voyage.
It's okay to explain.
Anyway, back at the estate, Catherine Zeta Jones admits that the baby's not...
The baby isn't Idle's at all. I have no idea what this deception was for.
Yeah.
So it's Moranis' baby the entire time.
She said it was to stop him from killing Rick Moranis.
Again, it makes total sense.
You remembered.
I remember that. I remember because he was I didn't want you to murder my husband anymore, so I told you it was your baby.
Well, I mean...
What's the problem?
I don't know. I don't understand how that plan works.
I think the plan was, step one, cast Catherine Zeta Jones in this movie. Step two, figure out the character later.
Step two, write scene where she's naked and I'm naked with her.
Step three, figure out character.
Cleese shows up. He has a gun on them. We think Rick Moranis has exploded, but surprise, he's back.
He wasn't, and
but it doesn't matter because Cleese still gets the drop on them. But he completely forgot that there was a fourth character, and Barbara Hershey shows up and drops a puma.
And he could have won if he just shot instead of monologuing.
Exactly. Yeah.
He did the classic thing where it's I have the gun on you, and I could just shoot you like I'm planning to do. But first, I'm going to explain everything slowly.
But as Cleese is found out, but as he's chased out of the mansion, that's when he runs afoul of the live escaped puma, and he's about to get eaten, but then
we totally rented this movie on VHS growing up as a kid. I definitely remember watching it with my family. I had forgotten the scene where the camera from inside the puma's mouth with teeth, jaws on either side of it, goes over John Cleese's screaming head and then reverses for some reason as the Frenchmen come back on their upside-down bicycle car and carry him away. I had forgotten that was a scene that was in my brain until I watched it the other night. I'm all like, fuck, I remember that. Yeah. And I remember even as a kid not understanding what was going on.
I had forgotten that scene, and I watched the movie 2 days ago.
This would be a running theme there. That scene where Eric Idle's playing the bagpipes, something jogged in my memory bank. Yeah, I've seen this. And then when a French car goes by and John Cleese is standing on top of it, I was like, yeah, I remember this. Yeah. I don't remember how it got from point A to point B. Now, having seen it, what seems to happen is cut to everyone inside the estate, you hear crash, boom, whatever, and then it cuts back to John Cleese riding on top of the car.
And then as John Cleese is driven away on this car, this is when the movie's all like, oh fuck, we gotta go! And then it literally wraps up in less than a minute.
Yeah.
And no one holds any grudges for the attempted murders or adultery.
Nope.
They're all just it's all fine.
Yeah.
Or horrible lies.
Yep. The ending is Eric Idle married his secretary that you had mentioned.
Yeah, remember that character? Remember that fucking character?
I had to look her up because I remember that happening and me being like, even at the time when I was forgetting, I was just watching it, eyes on the screen. In the middle of the movie, I had to quickly pause it and be like, who the hell is this character?
That's the one thing you can be forgiven for forgetting.
Yeah.
Because the movie forgets about her.
She hadn't been in the movie in about 40 minutes. The mother married a cop that we saw in one scene, not a cop that Eric Idle spoke to in two different scenes, who actually would have been a recurring character.
See, here's the thing, is that now you're mentioning something that I had forgotten. I forgot that happened.
Yeah.
Because, that's barely a character. She wouldn't it make more sense for her to marry the dude she was shipping in the boat?
Yes.
Who's in more than one scene?
Yes.
And has a name? I can't remember his name, but he has a name in the movie.
And Rick Moranis forgives Eric Idle, and Rick Moranis and Catherine Zeta Jones live happily ever after, but they open up their estate to the public so we can give tours of it.
Well, they always were giving tours to it, but Rick Moranis as the Duke enjoyed giving tours, so now his role is he's like officially the tour guide, and he has his roller skates, they're back. Yeah. And I guess like the roles have been flipped, and I guess Catherine and Rick are just living in the mansion, and everyone's happy.
This ending is like I was saying about this being a really terribly done black comedy. This movie does not have the balls or the teeth of a black comedy. No, and this ending, it's too soft. A black comedy is going to end with Eric Idle dying,
or in jail, Let's be perfectly honest. He should be in jail. Yep. He should get everything that he wants, and then the very last thing that happens is like, oh, by the way, we totally figured out that you murdered a person, and then he ends in jail, and then this fucking narration can come back because the final scene can mean Eric Idle in jail. Telling his story of woe to whoever will listen.
And then the parts of him being an unreliable narrator that's not matching the things that happen in the scenes makes sense.
Wow, it's almost like we wrote this movie to be better.
Maybe he's telling it to a priest who it turns out wasn't poison.
There you go.
Why not? Yeah. He does that all the time in this movie. Andrew, I was expecting other people that died to just not die. Why not? Why not?
I totally expected John Cleese to die, but
if you want I just want to plug a good example of this kind of movie. It's not a movie; it's a musical called The Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. If you want this plot, but really good and really funny, watch or listen to A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. It is the same plot, basically, where the main character finds out that he's seventh in line to be the Earl.
So he tries to...
And he spends the whole time successfully killing his cousins and builds his way up to the top. And it's really, really funny, really witty, really well done. Black comedy done well.
That sounds like that's based on that classic Alec Guinness movie that has almost the exact same plot. Kind Hearts and Coronets? I think that's what it is.
But I mean, it's a classic tale, classic kind of farce setup that Eric Idle wanted to try his hand at, and he just picked a pretty bad director who couldn't really flesh out ideas with him.
Did they not have that? Because they dropped F-bombs. Was it a rating thing? It feels like it wouldn't commit to being a black comedy.
It's definitely R-rated. For 1993, it's definitely there's enough nudity and swearing that it is an R-rated comedy, and you're right. Because
it feels like a lot of punches were pulled then that didn't need to be pulled. Yeah. Why did they pull their punches on so much of the dark comedy? Where, they could have just committed to the joke. Why not? It's an R-rated movie. Go for it.
Kind of feels like they just went with the first draft of a movie like this.
Maybe they thought maybe they wanted to make it quick and cheap and didn't wanted to just make a cash grab off names. Maybe they really weren't that invested in the film.
Andrew, is there anything that you remember about the movie that we haven't discussed that you want to mention here?
No, I don't
sort of
think
like a cap on things.
I naked Catherine Zeta Jones, awkward Eric Idle naked. I came down for a slice of ham. Highlight of the film. Just watch that one maid.
One thing that I really want to point out, and I'm disappointed that we don't get this type of comedy anymore. One thing that I really enjoyed, and it speaks a lot to Eric Idle's role in the Python troupe as well is I really liked that Idle, in addition to writing the screenplay, also wrote the soundtrack.
And sang all the songs.
Oh yeah, there's that song about the baby.
Yeah.
I forgot my baby in the restaurant.
That's it. There we go. Yeah, he sings the opening title song over the credits, and then there's like a dream sequence where he sings a song in French as well too. So he has like there are 2 original Eric Idle numbers in this song, and
this movie.
I guess yes, thank you. We don't. I mean, like. I don't know necessarily if, like, who are our modern-day comedy stars? I don't know. I'm not asking, like, Melissa McCarthy to, like, write, like, a song for a movie and then perform it herself in the movie. But also...
Andy Samberg does that all the time.
Am I not asking that?
Yeah.
You're right. Andy Samberg is a great parallel to that.
Jack Black, yeah, he writes some...
You know what? I take it back. These type of comedies exist constantly. But I don't know. It was something that I liked about it. I like that he's saying little ditties.
It is kind of jarring that the movie opens with his narration giving the backstory of the dukedom, and then it cuts immediately to him singing a title song. And it's like, that's still Eric Idle. Is the narrator singing? Whatever.
He could be. Who knows?
One thing I want to just mention here is just a couple of funny lines that I wrote down. Like, Eric Idle and Rick Moranis come home from a night of drinking, and they see the butler.
Yes.
Butler goes, drunk again, son? And Rick Moranis goes, that's okay, so are we. You know, John Cleese is being the class.
The butler, whose name is Butler.
Yeah. You know, what does John Cleese say when he's just going over the adoption papers?
So many of you orphans. Unwanted children all over the place. People went sex mad in the 60s, you know. Seemed to do it just for fun. Weird.
They're having sex just for fun. Weird. Yeah, he doesn't seem to understand that.
Classic John Cleese.
Okay, that is a good joke.
Yeah.
Having sex for fun. I remember there was one joke that I think it was like a bisexual joke. Like, I'm bisexual.
Don't have to worry about me, dear. I'm bisexual. Whenever I want sex, I have to buy it.
I feel like that joke is older than this movie, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, what's weird is, like, that is one of Eric Idle's first lines. That's one of the first things he says to his secretary.
Sure, yeah.
And that is so early in the movie that I thought, like, okay, so is Eric Idle meant to be a sleaze? You know, is he just meant to be
he has, like, this really kind of, like, tossed-off comment to his secretary. That, like,
and she's flipping him off behind her back.
Yeah,
so it's oh, so we're not meant to like him, but, like, it seems like they still weren't sure on what kind of characterization they wanted to give Tommy Patel.
I feel like we've hit on this is like the main character of Tommy Patel. We're supposed to hate on we also don't like him. Yeah. We're sort of indifferent to this character. And I would say that's the film's biggest failing. Because I don't really care if he succeeds or fails.
Yeah, and are we meant to not like Rick Moranis' character? In that case, you failed.
Well, that's absurd because you cast Rick Moranis.
Yeah, and the way he's playing it is fucking delightful.
Yeah. There's some good witticisms in this movie. Yeah. Rick Moranis has like one, I can't remember, but he has like one funny line where he's like talking about going into the withdrawing room, and
this is the room you withdrew into.
Now, if you'll follow me through this withdrawing room, and I know what you're thinking, but the origin of drawing room is to withdraw, because it is the room to which you withdrew.
This is an Eric Idle line said by Rick Moranis, and you know what? Like every once in a while, the little recipe that this movie has made. Every once in a while, there's like nice little bites.
Yeah.
Nice little bites. I would say it's a Quibi of a movie.
Yes.
Quick bites. It's a quick bite of a movie.
All right. Well, do we think that this movie as a whole has a certain something, or is it just a whole lot of nothing?
I think it's a whole lot of nothing. Yeah.
You did not care for this movie one bit.
I did. Do I have to?
No, you don't. No, you don't. Absolutely. No, you can have your own opinion. Absolutely. It seems like you don't remember most of it. So you might, if you watched it again, maybe you might enjoy it.
No, don't subject him to that.
I don't think I would.
He made up his mind.
I kind of like it.
I kind of like
this movie too. I was surprised.
You guys are mad. This movie's terrible.
We watch a lot of garbage.
I watch a lot of garbage too. I love garbage.
You have not seen the fucking avalanche of horseshit we've had to sift through.
My friends, you are judging. You are wrong on that regard. I have watched a lot of shitty movies.
All right.
I love bad movies. I crave bad movies. I watch random movies all the time.
Yeah.
This is not my. Before you start going, this is at least my second rodeo, gentlemen, of bad movies.
Okay, like I'm not going to say it's a fantastic movie, not even a great movie.
Oh, I'm not arguing that this movie has like any sort of quality to it whatsoever. No. It's an absolute mess, and it has no coherent plot structure whatsoever. I just laughed. Yeah, I just laughed. I was enjoying.
I might have been because I was alone. Maybe you should watch it again, but alone in silence.
No, I want to preserve this good memory.
Yeah, I'm never watching this movie again. I'm keeping the feeling that I have with.
You don't seem to retain much if you watch it alone. Well, anyways. Andrew, thank you so much for taking it to you and your spotty memory.
Thank you so much. No, this was so much fun. Thank you so much, guys. It's so good to just like, I love watching bad movies and then just like, or great movies for you guys. and then just talking about them and breaking them down. It is one of my favorite things to do. It's an absolute blast. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome, my friend. You are so busy. You're doing so many things. You have like so much to plug. So please grab the mic. Go. Don't actually grab the mic, but like by all means, hit it.
Well, I'll be quick. February 2nd, I am hosting the Naughty Python Flying Circus Burlesque show. That'll be at the Rio Theater if you're in Vancouver at that time. On February 10th, I am hosting Emo Night at the Rickshaw, which will be live emo covers and emo bands.
Nice.
It'll actually, for any of you out there who are like emo nerds, it's 2000s pop punk, not real emo. Before you come at me, like
oh man, I want like a 16-minute My Bloody Valentine ambient fucking like this.
Okay, here's the thing. I learned this because I did a lot of research for Emo Night. I listened to like Good Charlotte and My Chemical Romance. According to emo nerds, they're not emo, they're pop punk.
They're not emo.
And they're definitely you're gonna hear these songs. So come to have fun.
Too much energy.
Yeah, so if you want to come to Emo Night to complain about how they're not playing emo, come to Emo Night to complain.
If you want something to be more emo about, go to the Rickshaw.
There's nothing more emo than going to a pop punk band concert and complaining about how not emo it is.
And of course, that shouldn't be confused with Eno Night, which they just play like soft ambient music in the background. That's
I do not understand this joke.
It's a Brian Eno reference, folks.
I don't know who that is.
He produced a lot of David Bowie's albums.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Someone out there is killing themselves.
Well, you hear that, listener? You learned something today.
Keep going. I'm sure you have like something else you need to plug.
I am also doing Sketchfest with the Smashed Potato Kids. That will be on February 7th at the Rio Theater as well. If you're hearing this in time before, I think, January 27th, you can submit a sketch to Sketchfest.
That's real tight. That's real tight.
I don't know
if we'll make it, but for that one person, maybe.
That one person, maybe. Hey, do it with your iPhone in your house.
There you go.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, we are doing Sketchfest. So come to the Rio, watch a bunch of local sketch groups just put their sketches up. And then after that, I think there was one more thing I was doing. Yes, Nuts and Gum, Improv and Burlesque, together at last. But so what this is a show that I'm very proud of, and I produced at Lima Lou's. That'll be going up on February 18th. Yep. It is Valentine's edition. So what we do is we have the cast. They come in. They have not prepared anything. We just have a bunch of random costumes, and then we roll for a theme. That theme, the audience, based on that theme, the audience will suggest a song. And that's the song that they're doing a striptease to. And then we roll Wild Magic, which is an element of surprise that they have to incorporate into their number.
Nice.
And then they have the number before them to prepare, and then they just go up and do the striptease. But this month, or rather in February, it's all duets. So it's going to be random. Your partner is randomized as well, and you have to do a duet with them.
Sounds like a very splitting heirs level of chaos nature.
Sounds like something that I would like to watch from afar and not participate in whatsoever.
Well, tell me about it tomorrow. You won't be participating, but you can come and be an audience member.
Fantastic.
All right.
Go see all of those things if you're listening to this within a time frame where you can go and see those. And if you're listening to this after the fact, They were earth-shattering, and they changed. You know what? They changed the game.
My name on all the posters, and my burlesque name is just Lynch with an exclamation point.
We're living in like a this stuff world right now. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how like the fabric of society is going to break apart. Andrew, you gotta get out of here. You're doing a whole bunch of things. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome to come back. When we're not as pressed for time.
Absolutely, come back,
and I don't get stuck in a fucking snowstorm.
Yeah. And we roped you into the Monty Python thing, so if there is a specific actor whose career you would like to talk about and watch the most obscure movie that they've ever been in, open invitation to come back anytime you want.
Oh, yeah.
Any actors?
There for sure is.
All right, save it.
I'll save it. I'll save it.
All right,
yeah, because I worked at the movie theater between 2001 and 2004. I worked at the movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
I watched every movie. Like probably 90%. If it came out between 01 and 04, I watched it. And there are so many movies that have been completely forgotten about that I watched. That I still think about. The Musketeer, American Outlaws, SWAT, all of these movies that were huge movies.
We can't get into SWAT right now. We're going to go down a SWAT hole. SWAT is not a forgotten movie.
It's not? Wait, you guys have watched SWAT?
Of course I've watched SWAT. I was a fucking like young man in like the early 2000s. I watched SWAT on repeat.
I want to talk about the Musketeer really bad.
All right, okay. Well, maybe we'll do a Peter Hyams. We'll do a French literature month. Yeah,
can't
we'll
wait.
That. Anyway,
do you remember with Mina Savari? Do you guys remember?
I know the Musketeer.
And Tim Roth.
I'm trying to end the episode.
I want to talk about.
Stop yelling! Jesus Christ! I'm sitting between both of you guys. My eardrums are gonna burst.
Well, welcome to our cast members in the show that we did recently. Yes, that was Splitting Heirs. Directed by Robert Yannick.
That was Splitting Heirs.
That was Splitting Heirs. Shall I do I'll do another.
No.
That was Splitting Heirs.
Yes.
Directed by Robert Yannick. If you like this episode and would like to check out more, we are on Spotify and YouTube. You're probably watching us on one of those things. If you're listening to us on Spotify. 6 years. Yeah. 6 years in a row. You
goes by like that.
Like this. If you are listening to us on Spotify, but you want to see all those amazing posters I was talking about earlier, head on over to YouTube and check it out because Jameson's uploading all of that. He does the photos. That's what
I do the photo.
I do the photo. Next episode, more Python, more Monty. And,
the full Monty.
All of it.
Yeah.
And until next time, I'm Kaz.
I'm Jameson, and the immortal words of money. Oh, nice hat.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm Andrew Lynch.
He's Andrew Lynch and he's wearing a hat!
I have to go.
He has to go, yeah. And now for something completely different.